Science says one thing, it says we're created by accidental collection of atoms. You say we're all created by God.
That is not what science says. Science does not say we're here by accident. That's a philosophy of science. Science is just a study of process, how things happen, be it evolution or whatever. That's a process. It's a philosophy, a particular philosophy of science that says we're here by accident. Do you really think we're here by accident?
What do you mean by accident?
Chance mutations.
Chance mutations, of course. There's no other logical way. If we weren't here by chance mutations, then we couldn't do all the kind of things that we do today with science.
One speaker insists that personal value can be self-assigned, even without God, and that human feelings and social norms still make morality real. The other challenges that claim by pressing on foundations. If value is self-declared, what keeps it anchored to reality? When science is invoked, the debate shifts to whether accident is a scientific conclusion or a philosophical add-on. If morality is built on conscience and absolutes, where do those absolutes come from? If morality is built on society, does it change when society changes? Let's dive in.
But regardless of whether the question is answered or not, I feel like human beings do have a value, and they can make moral choices that would be equivalent, in fact, to some of the same moral choices you would make with religion.
Sir, if there is no God, it's very simple. Camus, Sartre, and Nietzsche pointed out so clearly. If there is no God, life is absurd. Why? Because morality is totally relative. Why? Because there is no mind prior to the human mind who defines what's right and what's wrong, so it's obvious that the human mind defines what's right and what's wrong. Which means, if I want to slit her throat, or if I want to feed her food, it ultimately is meaningless. It's whatever I choose. That's existentialism. It's just my experience. So if I slit her throat, or if I feed her dinner, it's meaningless. It's whatever I choose.
But in fact, it wouldn't be meaningless because the fact that you know that she has feelings, that she understands, that she's part of the society, and that all these things would result from that, it in fact does have meaning within the context of human beings. Humans cannot exist outside of society. So if you slit her throat, I guarantee you every single person here would rush you, grab you, and put you down on the ground and not let you go until the police got here. And you would know that, and you would feel that for the rest of life. You would know, I cut off somebody's life, all of that kind of thing. The people that can do that without having those feelings have something messed up in their head physically.
Oh, very good.
Right?
So now what I hear you appealing to is a conscience. An innate understanding that to slit her throat is absolutely wrong. Very good. That is exactly my argument. You're absolutely right. If I were to slit her throat, my conscience would convict me. That is wrong. My conscience would tie me into an intangible value called justice that I cannot measure in the bottom of a test tube, but that is very, very real to me. I experience it on a regular basis. My conscience convicts me. That was wrong, Cliffe. I experience guilt. The only way those values that my conscience ties me into can be real is if there is some God to create and define them. Otherwise, they're totally relative.
Where's your logic in that? You just say, let's say they may be relative in that someone's idea of justice in this country might be slightly different from someone's idea of justice somewhere else. But the fact is they exist as a collection of how people feel, act, and do things that is social norms, that is written in our laws, all of those kind of things. They exist without what you say, there must be God. But why must there be? The fact that these people here buy into all of those things create those values as reality. If no one here believed in murder as an evil, then people would just kill each other left and right.
All right. It's real simple. It's real simple. Let me explain. If Nazi Germany would have won World War II, I am convinced to the root of my being that gassing Jews would still be evil. If Nazi Germany had won World War II, I am convinced to the root of my being that gassing Jews is still absolutely evil. Why? Because I have a conscience that ties me into moral absolutes, justice. Therefore, I have to ask myself as a thinking human being, what is the basis of that moral absolute? The only way a moral absolute can be real is if there is some type of God to create and define that moral absolute.
It doesn't even take that for that moral absolute of gassing Jews to be wrong, right? All they had to do was say, this is another person. Why do they deserve life? Let's create that as an absolute. Why do all humans deserve life? Because let's say that is your absolute. You can come to that though with those people didn't do anything wrong in the society. There was no justice in what was done to them. There was no punish. They weren't being punished. There was no effect. They just took someone's life for no reason. Why is that wrong? Because if everyone just took everyone's life, no one could live, right? If I just like suddenly just killed each other for no reasons, it doesn't make any sense. It's obvious what was morally wrong there. The fact is they justify it by considering Jewish people not human. It was the only way they could even get around in their own morals, which you would say that they were totally corrupt, right? They were against God, yet the people that were doing that were all religious people. The people in Germany were all either Protestants or Catholics.
All that tells you is that they're warped people. It tells you nothing about God. It tells you how warped the people are that do the evil, even if they do it in the name of God.
Why does God allow evil to be done in His name?
Why does God allow evil to be done in His name? Great question. Ultimately, I do not know why God gave us free will. But obviously, the all-powerful God chose to partially limit His power by giving us a free will. Now, it is absolutely impossible for God to give you free will, respect your free will, and then every time you hold back and try to hit Him in the face, He puts plexiglass in between you two and says, oh, no. I've given you free will, but you can't exercise it.
Oh, my God is all-knowing, right?
He's all-knowing, correct.
So He knows the beginning and the end of time.
Yes?
But before the beginning of time, He made a choice to create that, correct?
Yes?
Okay. So, since He knows the beginning and the end, and He created it, that means that He was responsible for everything that happened since then.
No, false.
That's not free will.
That's totally false.
Why not?
The all-powerful God chose to partially limit His power by giving us free will. And our free will puts us in the position of being creative. And you can create good with your life, or you can create evil with your life. But Jesus promises that there's going to be a day of judgment when He will hold you responsible for the free decisions you make. And if you choose to create evil, you're free to do that now. But you're not free to escape the fact that on a day of judgment, you will stand before an all-knowing, all-powerful God. You won't be able to slip any money under the table to bribe the judge. You'll be held responsible for what you've done with your life.
So can God affect things physically in the world at this moment?
Yes.
Were He to choose?
Yes.
And how would He do so?
Well, in the Gospels we read about miracles. God changing a natural law that He's made in order to perform a miracle. That's the resurrection of Christ.
And what He did?
Christ was stone dead, but 3 days after He died, He physically, bodily rose from the dead, and over a period of 40 days, He appeared to over 500 people who saw Him risen from the dead. That's an example of the supernatural God changing a natural law that He created in the first place and performing what you and I call a miracle.
Just at that moment, though, right?
Right. God doesn't perform miracles every second of every day in every location.
So
miracles are isolated incidents of God stepping in and changing a natural law to perform a miracle.
So why haven't we seen, like, we've been studying, let's say, maybe since like 1850, 1800, we've been studying every physical property of the whole world as best we can. We've been looking at everything until the point that we've gotten past the atom down to the neutron. Why is it that everything follows laws consistently everywhere in the universe? Where do miracles jump in?
Because God created natural laws to operate consistently.
Then why?
Can you imagine the chaos that would occur if you woke up this morning and gravity wasn't in operation? It would be pathetic.
But
God has created a consistent world with natural laws, and then He gave us rational minds, and we, by exercising our rational minds, can do good science, and we can depend upon the consistency of nature, and that's a gift. I'm very grateful for that.
Right, but say this miracle happens. Say all of a sudden I'm about to fall to my death, and gravity reverses.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So this is possible within your worldview, correct? If I'm a righteous man.
No, it's real simple.
And gravity saves me.
Gravity works here. Gravity works here. 10 times out of 10 times, this drops. When I let go, it drops.
From the beginning of the universe
now,
until...
what is a miracle? A miracle is it drops and then a hand comes in.
Well, let's say
So a miracle is God intervening. He doesn't change gravity and suspend the laws of gravity, but instead He intervenes and performs a miracle.
there must be something happening there, and we would see it, though, right? We would see it. It would be
Yeah,
some
people
kind of-
saw Jesus risen from the dead. They saw Him. Thomas came up to Jesus and said, right here. And Jesus said, yeah, I'll put my hands in the nail print. You put your hands in the nail prints in my hands, Jesus says. Thomas saw Jesus risen from the dead. That's why he believed. And when Joseph was told by Mary, I'm pregnant and I'm a virgin, Joseph said, no way. It took an angel communicating to Joseph that indeed Mary was a virgin for him to believe. He wasn't going around saying, oh yeah, what's the latest miracle today? Oh, my fiancée's pregnant and she's still a virgin. No, Joseph didn't think that way.
It's a miracle that happens to quite a few people, though.
That virgins conceive? Who are quite a few people that you've met?
Well, just most people aren't.
I hope one of them is not your
most
girlfriend.
Most people just aren't convinced by that line of thinking, if you know what I mean. But what I'm saying is so you've got, let's say you know a miracle is about to happen. I know that's impossible.
I don't know a miracle's about to happen.
I'm saying here's my test of logic on this. You know a miracle is about to happen. By some way, you got a prediction, you've seen a sign, an angel has come and spoke to you already, so you're already convinced that miracles do happen and a miracle is about to happen. And you say, I'm going to drop that lozenge, and God has promised me He's going to, with His hand, He's promised me He's going to lift it up, right? And stop that lozenge in the air. Now you've got every scientist you know, you say, today is the day that we know God's going to do a miracle. Let's see what happens. What do you propose? They know these are all these physical forces in the world that interact. They never break these laws. If they break, we find out what the actual description of them is, and then we remodel our model. But it's still, once again, something consistent. They know that, so they've got every camera, every bit of analysis, everything possible trained right here, looking to find out exactly what's going on when God puts His hands underneath there.
Yeah.
What is it? What is it that happens there? What is it? Is it a spiritual?
I don't know. God doesn't use me as a consultant to advise God on how to perform miracles. So I honestly do not know how God performs miracles. But I can promise you that the second temptation of Christ, recorded in Matthew chapter 4, Satan takes Jesus to the top of the temple and says, hey, Jesus, throw yourself down. For it is written, He will command His angels concerning you, and they will lift you up so that you don't strike your foot against a stone. And Jesus says, no, it's also written, do not put the Lord your God to the test. So the whole idea of, hey God, if you exist, perform a miracle right here, right now, and if you happen to meet my request, then you'll be privileged enough to have me believe in you, is manipulative. It's dishonest.
Isn't that rational, though? Why should you believe in anything without some kind of...
Do you look your girlfriend in the face and tell her that unless you have sex with me, I don't believe you love me? That's manipulative, sir.
That's manipulative.
Don't treat people that way, and don't treat God that way.
I'm not trying to Jesus either, so...
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
You know, what I'm saying is these kind of things, that's also not a proof thing, because love is one of those things that's a construct between people, and is an emotional thing. I'm saying within the physical realms of things...
Yes?
You know, if I throw a bowling ball in a certain direction, and I know every bit of information in the world about how that kind of thing interacts, then it's going to go exactly where it's going to happen the exact same every time, right?
Good.
So, and if the world is constructed of these laws, where things do interact in that way every time, why do you think we have free will and that things are not determined by all the physical forces? If we were to know, if let's define God.
Well, it's real simple. The reason that we have free will is because God loves us. God is not a heavenly engineer. He's a heavenly Father. And you cannot have love without a free will. It is impossible. If the girl you've been dating for the past 2 months says she loves you, and tonight your father calls you up and says, son, I've been paying her $1,000 a week to date you, you'd be royally bummed out. Why? Because love demands free will. And if you try and brainwash my children, I'll be all over your case like a wet blanket. Why? Because if you would deprive a person of their free will, they're no longer human. They're a machine. And God did not create you as a machine. He created you as a human being. And a big part of that is a free will. Right. You take away free will and you cannot love, sir. You take away free will and you've taken away one of the biggest gifts that God has given us. The ability to love, to genuinely care. So watch out what you ask for.
So love itself is something outside of the realm of all of the physical, chemical, and interactions that people
Love is not
it's
chemically analyzed. You can't chemically analyze love. You can't show me love in a test tube. You cannot show me 2 feet of love.
What if I told you that presented with an image of a woman and I stimulate the right spots in your brain, that you would fall in what exactly would replicate love that happened naturally? We're getting to that point where
one of the things I hope you're going to learn real soon is that there's a difference between romantic love and faithful love. And if you ever do get married, your romantic love is going to have to turn into faithful love at some point. Otherwise, you're going to crash and burn your marriage and it'll be divorce.
What I'm saying is...
Romantic love, infatuation, has to grow and mature into faithful love.
Look, the world... my stance I'm trying to defend here is that The world is made up of all these small parts. Let's say humans, though, are a little bit above that in that with the sum of parts we have a little bit more, but it's still all physically created somewhere down in your brain, in your reactions. I'm not going to say heart because somebody else who knows more about science will say, but clearly your heart only circulates blood. The thing is that love is still something that's happening within these physical compounds. And if I were to take off part of your brain and slice it off, you might totally change your personality, right?
Yes.
Right.
A lobotomy would change you and me drastically, correct?
Right. Like all these tests we do, we realize that everything that you feel and believe is what your brain interprets based on the rest of the world. And if the rest of the world is a deterministic system where these laws do not break, unless God is performing minor miracles at all moments through spiritual love in our brains that destroy those laws that we've worked so hard to figure out, then there's no room for these kind of things to jump in and happen.
Sure there are. If I'm walking around the corner of the building here, and a man with balding head and big stack of books under his arm walks around the corner, as soon as I see him, I haul back and smack him. I'm hauled into a court of law. Yeah. The judge says, "Cliffe, why'd you hit the professor?" And I say, "Well, Your Honor, when I was a little boy, I was abused. And my father would abuse me. He had a little bit of balding hair, and he would pick up big books and smack me over the head when I was a little kid. And when I saw this professor, he just so reminded me of my abusive father that I just had to haul back and smack him." Fortunately, the legal system in the United States is based on free will. Based on the fact that, Cliffe, you are responsible for hitting that professor. You are responsible, and you will go to jail for it if you hurt him too badly. And to blame my genetic makeup or to blame my environment is insufficient.
What I'm saying is even despite this notion of free will, the reason we tell people that they have free will in that sense is because not only were you abused by your father, but you were also taught that it's wrong to just run off and hit somebody, right? Now, what I'm saying is your brain made that choice, but it is very possible that within the realms of this world, that choice, even though you felt like you consciously made it was a decision within your brain somewhere, that all the experiences in your life culminated to make that decision in some kind of physical sense. Now, it doesn't feel like that to you, but they culminate to make that sort of decision. And in fact, it was out of your power, but because it's impossible to know, right? We go on the assumption...
Fine, just listen to what you're saying. You're saying that you're so intelligent, so brilliant, that you can stand above all human beings and realize that although human beings think they're experiencing free will, although your girlfriend says she loves you and she thinks she loves you, although your parents say that they really do love you, but you understand it all, that it's all biochemically determined, that it's just their drive to preserve the genetic pool that motivates them to care for you and pay for your college education. Come on, sir, give me a break. That is so out of touch with the real world, it's scary. Determinism, you can't live that out. Your parents don't have to pay for your education. Your parents don't have to give you Thanksgiving meal. Right. You can have a deadbeat dad. Did you ever know that? You ever think about that?
Oh,
he doesn't have to care for you.
But what does that have
He
to do with
chooses to care for you because he wants to.
Let's not even think about, would it improve our standings with God? How would it improve if we were all to sit down right now and say, this is our moral law. Let's say it's the Bible, and we followed every rule and every check, and we translated it every possible way so we knew all the possibilities. Why would it improve things here on earth?
Because if you understand that you have a conscience that ties you into moral values that are real, then you understand it's worth my effort to try and live out those moral values to the best of my ability. And then when you look at Jesus Christ, you see that he sums up the moral law with the commands, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. And I can promise you, sir, the solution to the world's problems is not more education and more money. The solution to the world's problems is that we have a transformation at what you earlier, I would agree with you, called the heart, meaning by that the soul, the personality, where we begin to love each other instead of hate each other, where we begin to care for each other instead of rip each other off, where we begin to encourage each other instead of manipulate and control each other. And that is the solution to your family's problems, to my family's problems, to this nation's problems, to the world's problems. The hope that is found in Jesus Christ, who offers to forgive us, to cut us out of our straitjacket of self-centeredness, and to free us to love even our enemy and to forgive those who do dastardly things to us.